Journalism broke out on MSNBC. Rachel Maddow interviewed Colin Powell, and I think she did a spectacular job with it. Let's go for it. Let's do it. Let's try it. Let's go to clip number 5. Now, here's the background you got to understand on this. There was a report from ABC News earlier saying that they had a principals meeting where they specifically okayed certain interrogation procedures. And I was wondering, when I saw that she had an exclusive with Colin Powell, if she was going to have, be strong enough, courageous enough to ask him. And she was, and I loved it. So, but first, let's go to whether he was present at the meetings, clip number 5.
On the issue of intelligence, tainted evidence, and those things, were you ever present at meetings at which the interrogation of prisoners like Abu Zubaydah, other prisoners in those early days, where the interrogation was directed, where specific interrogation techniques were approved? It has been reported on a couple of different sources that there were principals meetings to which you would have typically been there, where those interrogations were almost play-by-play discussed.
They were not play-by-play discussed, but there were conversations at a senior level as to what could be done with respect to interrogation. I cannot go further because I don't have knowledge of all the meetings that took place or what was discussed at each of those meetings, and I think it's going to have to be the written record of those meetings that will determine whether anything improper took place. But it was always the case that, at least from the State Department standpoint, we should be consistent with the requirements of the Geneva Convention.
If there was a meeting, though, at which senior officials were saying, were discussing and giving the approval for sleep deprivation, stress positions, waterboarding, were those officials committing crimes when they were giving that authorization?
You're asking me a legal question. I mean, I don't know that any of these items would be considered criminal. And I will wait for whatever investigations that the government or the Congress intends to pursue with this.
That was great stuff by Rachel, man. That's journalism on television. It seems weird to watch. How did that happen? And notice what happened there. He didn't want to say he was there when they made those decisions because those decisions could get him in a lot of trouble. And then you can tell he was there because he's like, well, I don't know that they were criminal. Okay, so you're a little concerned. And I love that she had the bravery to ask him. And she went back and asked 4 or 5 different follow-ups. And the follow-ups are what matter the most. Great job by Rachel Maddow and asking Colin Powell. He is the least guilty of all the Bush guys. But he was in the room. And if you got to interview with him, you got to ask him those tough questions. And he's culpable because he was. He should have stood out, and he should have said, no, I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to be on board for this. And as far as we can tell for now, he didn't necessarily do that. But as he mentioned in the interview, we're going to, one day, probably the transcripts of that will be released. And when they are, we'll know who said what and who's ultimately responsible.